What's up guys, my name's Kabir Ali and welcome to the Medical Mixx. iPads are great tools, from their awesome note-taking capabilities to their easy-to-use interface. But which iPad gives the most value per dollar for students? Before we start, I want to give a quick shout out to SanDisk, who's helping to support this episode. I've been using their 128GB flash drive for a few weeks now, and it's awesome. They're also helping to support a giveaway on this video, so stick around all the way to the end to get details. Alright, let's get into it. Here are all the iPads that Apple currently offers on their website. Technically, the iPad mini is the cheapest, but for this student-focused comparison, we'll ignore it. At the base level, we have the standard 8th generation iPad, which is priced at $429 for the 128GB option. There's also a cheaper 32GB option, but that's nowhere near enough storage for anything you'll be doing if you're a student, so for this comparison, we'll ignore it. After the standard iPad is the iPad Air 4th generation, which comes in at $599 for the 64GB option and $749 for the 128GB option. Lastly, Apple offers the iPad Pro, which costs $799 for the 128GB 11-inch model. Now that we know what we're working with, let's break this comparison down into three major parts. Number 1 is performance, number 2 is note-taking ability, and number 3 is overall user experience. You can use these timestamps or the ones in the description if you want to skip around to different parts of the comparison. First up, we have speed or performance. The base iPad has Apple's 6-core A12 chip, while the iPad Air has the A14 chip, which is also 6 cores, and the iPad Pro packs 8 cores in the A12Z chip. All three of these are great processors, but there are a few key points that stand out between them. Here we can see a graph for performance for each of these iPads. The iPad Air is faster than the base iPad in both single and multi-core scores. Now, bear with me if you're not really into the technical jargon, because I'll get to the easier bits in a little bit. The iPad Pro, however, is nearly identical to the iPad Air in single-core tests and loses to it in multi-core tests. This could be because Apple has just released the iPad Air, but the iPad Pro has been out for a few months now, so it's due for an upgrade. We must also note, however, that the A12Z in the iPad Pro is better suited to graphically intensive work due to its extra graphics cores. In the performance category, the standard iPad receives a 6 out of 10, the iPad Air receives a 9.5 out of 10, and the iPad Pro garners a 9 out of 10. Alright, let's move on to the next category, which is note-taking. This is an extremely important part of a student's use of an iPad because a lot of what they'll be doing on it is taking notes. This year, Apple Pencil support was added to the standard iPad. It can only use the first generation Apple Pencil because it charges via Lightning port, not USB-C. In the note-taking category, the standard iPad gets a 6 out of 10. The iPad Air was completely revamped this year, and now it looks a lot more like its older brother, the iPad Pro. It supports Apple Pencil 2 and has a much nicer display than the previous model. For notes, this iPad gets a 9 out of 10. The iPad Pro has been the king of notes for a few years now, and it's easy to see why. Its beautiful 120Hz refresh rate display and Apple Pencil 2 support make it an amazing note-taking machine. This iPad gets a 10 out of 10 in the note-taking category. The final category is overall user experience. The base iPad has an older design with thick bezels and a home button. It also features a 60Hz refresh rate display, which is pretty standard, and a Lightning port instead of a USB-C port, so you lose out on a lot of different accessories that you would be able to attach in the Pro and Air models. This year, the iPad Air has updated to a much more modern form factor. It's got thinner bezels, no home button, and flat edges. It looks a lot more like its older brother, the iPad Pro, as I said before. It also features Touch ID in the power button, which is a first for Apple. It charges and connects through USB-C, so you have access to a wide range of external accessories. The display is much better than the previous generation, but still maintains the standard 60Hz refresh rate. The iPad Air receives an 8.5 out of 10 in this category. Finally, the iPad Pro. It's got a very similar design to the Air, but has one extra ultra-wide camera and a LiDAR scanner for augmented reality. It does not have Touch ID and instead takes advantage of Apple's other unlock system, Face ID. It also upgrades to a 120Hz display, which allows for a much smoother feel when using the device, especially with the Apple Pencil. The iPad Pro gets a 9.5 out of 10 from me in the overall user experience category. Alright, so the final verdict. You're probably expecting me to choose one of these three iPads and recommend it as the best iPad for students. But if you stayed around until this part of the video, you deserve a treat. So I'm going to tell you that none of these iPads are actually the ones you should buy if you're looking to get an iPad as a student. You should really be looking for the 2018 iPad Pro, which is actually this one right here. The 2018 and 2020 models have extremely minimal differences. The only differences are that the 2020 model has an extra LiDAR scanner and ultra-wide camera, and also packs the A12Z Bionic chip instead of the A12X that was found in the 2018 model. Now, Apple claims that there's better graphics performance with the A12Z because it has an extra graphics core, but after running many benchmarks, it has been found that there's very minimal to no difference between the two. That's why I definitely recommend the 2018 iPad Pro instead of the 2020 one, because it also packs 120Hz refresh rate, but it can be found for so much cheaper. You may even be able to find them at $650 or $600 refurbished. That's a similar price to the current iPad Air, which lacks 120Hz refresh rate. Now, if you really want to get something from 2020, definitely go for the iPad Air, not the Pro, as it gives a much better value for dollar. Alright guys, that's it from me. If you made it this far, then you're in for a treat because SanDisk is supporting a giveaway on this video. They're giving away 2 of their Cruiser Snap flash drives. One is 32GB and the other one is 64. To enter, all you need to do is drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and then leave a comment down below with a video idea of a video you think I should make. The top 2 video ideas will win these flash drives. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the mix.